Good evening. Welcome to tonight's interview with Makai Freitas. He is a candidate for State House District 8. Conducting our interview tonight is Christine Kubat, with a little help from myself. Before we get started, I'd like to do a quick introduction of HULI PAC. HULI PAC was birthed from a shared drive to rework our system by seeking āina-based, equity-focused leadership for our Hawai'i Island community. Now more than ever, we need leaders who are willing to circle back to our roots and instill real change in our community, from Kona to Ka'u to Hilo to Hawi. The time is now to HULI the system. Makai, why don't you start out by introducing yourself?
Aloha. Thank you again for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak with all you guys live on Facebook and also through YouTube. My name is Makai Freitas, and I am running for State House of Representatives in District 8. I am a proud father of two beautiful girls and a husband to a beautiful wife, Aulani. Currently, I'm a longshoreman working for Matson, and I have been there for 18 years. And I am enjoying this journey. I'm enjoying this journey, enjoying this endeavor, and I look forward to learning. And I look forward to hearing from different people, from different types of people, different walks of life, different backgrounds, and strategize a plan to help our community move forward.
Thank you. Christine.
Okay, so maybe you can help us understand how someone who's been working at Matson and is a longshoreman for so many years just one day wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a politician. How does that happen?
You know, honestly, I don't think I'm a politician. I'm not a politician. I am a labor guy. I'm an ex-athlete, ex-football player. I went to the University of Arizona with a degree in political science, a minor in sociology. I had a brief career with the Oakland Raiders. And I am diving into politics. I'm diving into the political arena to help our working class families. I'm diving into this arena to fight and advocate and to persevere through adversity to help our keiki stay on the āina, stay in our state. We're losing great young men and women to Las Vegas, to Utah, to Arizona. So to answer your question, I basically have been elected union official for the last 10 years. I'm currently the chairman of the Longshore Division or unit on the Big Island. And I've been in politics, been heavily involved in politics with my father, who's Makai Freitas, who recently has passed. And I've been a part of the political action committee with our union for the last 15 years or so. I feel that getting involved in politics is a way to truly help our working class, to truly get involved with in the grassroots with our communities and make a difference, make a change. The same way I listen to my membership, the same way I talk to them and listen to their issues and their ideals and their needs and advocate for them and try to collectively bargain great contracts so they can take care of their families, so that we can get them great health care. I think some of those values and lessons that I've learned can parallel into politics.
Okay, and it sounds like you're advocating for change. So does that mean you feel like the current state legislature is ineffective or could be more effective?
You know, to use the term ineffective, I don't think that's the right term to use. I think that I can bring certain skills to the table to work with current legislators, to work with labor unions, to work with nonprofits, to build relationships, to help make the current legislative structure better. I'm not going to sit here and knock anybody who's a current representative or senator, but I do feel that I can bring a unique set of skills to the table to help our community.
Which present political leaders do you feel you have the most in common with?
Oh boy. You know, I'm friends with a lot of political leaders. Do I know all of them intricately or are we, you know, I don't think I've spent enough time with a lot of them to truly know them to the core of the personality. I am very close with Uncle Dwight Takamine, who was a politician as well as a labor union leader. Dale Kobayashi from Manoa, I know pretty well. So I think as far as having things in common, it's a hard question to answer because I'm not really a true politician. You know, I didn't wake up one morning when I was a kid in 8th grade and want to be a politician. I'm a labor guy, and I'm just trying to make this jump to help our community and to advocate for the working people of our state.
So the question would be more about their politics. Like when you see people at the legislature, for instance, advocating for minimum wage increase or
yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Yes.
Yeah, like whose politics are you aligned with?
Oh man, yeah, I think a lot of the politicians who advocate for minimum wage. I know Brian Taniguchi was a major part of that. Also with Ron Kochi, I know a lot of his policies I think are efficient. Another one of my big things that I think are important is early education. I feel early education is extremely important. Again, I haven't really dove really deep into details on who pushes for what, because I know a lot of things happen behind closed doors. You know, you don't really truly have a public forum to have a question and answer with a lot of politicians. So you hear what they say, you know, through social media or at gatherings, but you know, what really happens behind closed doors, only a few people see that. So, you know, the major things that I'm standing up for, first and foremost, is housing. Secondly, I would say is livable wages and also healthcare education. I was able to tour the Hamakoko Hala healthcare centers last weekend in Honoka'a, Waimea, and in Kapa'au. And I was impressed with the Waimea facility. I was impressed with the Honoka'a facility. But the Kapa'au facility definitely needs help. There's a major healthcare issue in that part of our island.
So that's a good lead into a question about the 3 most pressing issues in your district. Seems like you kind of started to go there already. Would you like to just be more specific?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I think housing is an issue across the state. Housing is a problem. The legislature this past session did a great job. They got a lot of money for the Department of Hawaiian Homes as well as for housing. Now, the key is to make sure that gets seen through fruition, to make sure that that money is allocated and given to the right people. So government accountability is huge. It's great to allocate that money, but we got to make sure it gets to the right places. And I feel working with all the 3 levels of government, with Congress, state, and county, as well as DHHL and labor unions and other nonprofits to make sure that money is maximized to benefit the people of our community. Now, early education. Early education is a major issue. It's near and dear to my heart because I have 2 young girls. A lot of kids in our community. First and foremost, let me backtrack, and I apologize for that. The reading level. I was with a bunch of teachers at the Waimea Intermediate School a few weeks ago. The reading level in our community is very low. It's very low at an elementary school level. And I feel that the key component of education is identifying issues. And I'm not going to say learning disabilities. I would say learning challenges. Those challenges need to be identified as early as possible. And the DOE teachers need to be equipped with the mechanisms to help those young children, those young keiki, overcome whatever adversity they're going through at a young age. If you wait till they're in high school, a lot of times it's too late. Third issue that I'm really sensitive to, and it's near and dear to my heart, is livable wages, the working class, making sure we continue to advocate for the working people of our community. Their hopes and dreams and needs need to be at the forefront of the legislative agenda every session. There needs to be another change where the working class, you know, they need to. We're losing our working class. The working class is evaporating. They're moving to the mainland because it's an easier way of life for them. And I'll say last but definitely not least is healthcare. Healthcare is an issue, especially Native Hawaiians. You know, they don't have the healthcare they need, nor do they have the mechanisms or transportation to get to hospitals. A lot of times, by the time they get to the healthcare centers, it's too late. Dietitians, making sure that our people are eating healthy. You know, so they're not getting hit with diabetes. The life expectancy rate for Hawaiians is much lower than any other, lower than any other race. So those are the four major components that I'm looking at. Those are the four major things that I hold near and dear to my heart. And how do you fix those problems? Those problems are not going to be fixed overnight. Those problems are not going to be fixed in one legislative session or even one term or two terms. I feel that's a generational marathon. And to achieve those goals of overcoming those challenges come with, first and foremost, having great communication with your community, transparency. Communication or lack thereof is the nucleus of a lot of problems in any arena in life. I also feel that building relationships with my community, truly getting into the dirt, into the weeds, and listening to their issues, going down to the healthcare centers in Hawaii, and in Waimea, and then sitting and talking to the people of those communities and understanding what needs that they have, and taking that mana'o from them, and working with the rest of my constituents at the Capitol to advocate and try to and fight for more money to subsidize the issues that they have. Is definitely something that I'm going to do.
So I've got 2 yes or no questions.
Okay.
Do you support term limits for the position you are seeking?
Okay. Now, if the motivation to implement term limits is to stop different types of corruption, I think we have other mechanisms to stop that. You know, a lot of people I've talked to recently, they want to implement term limits because of the current situations that have happened, because of the image that politicians are doing things they shouldn't be doing. Number one, my integrity, and you know, is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. My dad and my mom. My mom is Makai Freitas. She was a teacher in the public school system at Roosevelt High School for 30 years. I say hard work, integrity, and character and moral fiber is something that was instilled in our family from a very, very young age. So for me, looking at it, I would have to be against term limits, just for the simple fact that when we have projects like we have now, these huge issues with housing and with education and healthcare, if I want to start a project, it's going to take more than a few terms to get it done. I want to be able to see it through fruition, see the people get the money and get the help that's intended for. But I do understand where people want term limits, because a lot of things are happening now, a lot of issues with people they're stuck there in that seat, and the corruption has happened recently. I totally understand.
How about publicly funded elections?
I am for public funded elections. I know a lot of states like Maine and a few other states do it. I think a lot of times, you know, you can still get your endorsements from a union and your endorsements from different people from the private and public sector. But I think when elections are publicly funded, then it definitely can possibly curtail or stop potential corruption, or potential influence in making decisions.
I wonder what you see as the most pressing issue facing Native Hawaiians in Hawaii, and what would you do about it?
You know, education has a power to change lives. I've always felt that. Education is a way to break the cycle of issues that your family may have. But it's not just education, it's healthcare. It's, you know, in order for a child or keiki to thrive and have an environment that's conducive to reaching the highest level of education a child can have, you need to be in a stable household, which means your parents have to be financially stable, or your parents need to have, number one, shelter. So housing is an issue. And they need to be able to have jobs to pay bills. So when you're in a situation where there's a turbulent situation, where the parents are having a hard time paying bills, they're in and out of different homes, there's not a stable household, then the keiki is not going to have the opportunity to truly succeed academically. So to ask the question, what one issue is affecting Native Hawaiians, they're all intertwined together. Housing, having livable wages, work opportunity, and education and healthcare are all woven together. I don't know how to pinpoint one, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have your child grow up in you know, in a home that has turbulence and domestic violence because the parents aren't working, and there's alcohol and drug abuse because it's not stable, you know, the kid is not going to be able to reach his potential academically. So I think all those four issues are all intertwined together, and they're all of God, great importance.
Do you think the system giving Native Hawaiians back their homelands is effective? And if not, what would you do to change it?
I think the Hawaiians, oh God, that's what, you know, this might break my 3-minute record you told me to, but you got to go back. Let's go back to the overthrow. Let's go back to the Organic Act. Let's go back to the Statehood Act. Let's go back to the broken promises the Native Hawaiians have had for over the last 100 years, and the lack of opportunities they've had, the lack of rehabilitation they had. So do I feel that would they thrive better if they're able to acquire land? Potentially, yes. However, that's just one part of it. They need to have jobs to provide livable wages. They need to have homes, and they need to have healthcare and education. That the children need to be raised in stable foundations so they can achieve academically. And another issue that I feel is also intertwined with education is college is not for everybody. I understand that. You know, I have my degree in political science. I can't change my oil in my car. My wife does all that stuff for me. But you have young men and women who are in high school who can build homes, who can operate machinery, who can build engines, who may not be academically inclined to go to college, but can do a lot of other great things. So how do you work with labor unions? How do you work with UH-Hilo, Hawaii Community College, and start vocational training for these young men and women in high school so they can transition from high school to the workforce and get jobs that pay them livable wages, so they can live in homes that are given to them on their land, and they can raise their children in stable, conducive environments.
Thank you. Christine?
So looking at land use, you know, there's different state zoning requirements. There's things like there's the whole environmental assessment process. There's all of these things in place that are there to protect lands, to make sure that development proceeds correctly. And when it comes to, you know, the way the state or the track record for protecting conservation lands, and I think we can look to Mauna Kea as a good example. Do you feel like the state has been doing a good job using the laws that are in place to protect these places like the conservation areas? Or do you feel like more should be done and the state should be taking a stronger stance in protection of these natural resources?
I think first and foremost, there needs to be a better level of communication and transparency. Before decisions are made, before actions are taken, all the facts need to be on the table. All the facts need to be transparent for the community. The community needs to be given a platform and the opportunity to voice their opinions. I've heard a lot of politicians say Hawaii is not for sale, Hawaii is not for sale. However, I do agree with that to an extent. If there's going to be a company coming in, let's say Amazon, they're supposed to be coming into Honolulu, and they're supposed to set up shop somewhere in Kapalama. If they're going to come to our state and they're going to care about our āina the same way I do, the same way you folks do, the same way my grandparents did, then I can get behind that. And if they're coming into the state and they're going to provide the men and women here livable wages, then I think it's something we also need to look at. However, conservation lands, you know, it's something that needs to be taken very, very seriously. The Mauna Kea issue, that's a long issue. I'm sure I answered that question sometime in this interview. But that's a very detailed, complex issue, and that's a total lack of stewardship from the state, going back to the 90s. So the lack of stewardship has led to the mindset of and the thought process of a lot of people have now. The state can always do more. You can always communicate better. Have I ever been in that situation so I can criticize them? Of course not. But I do feel that there can be better communication, and I feel that we have sacred areas, conservation areas are there for a reason, and those conservation areas need to be respected.
Okay. If I use the term circular economy, does that resonate with you? Do you know?
I've heard of it a little bit. Could you please just give me I read about it. I swear to God, I read about it sometime earlier today, but I've been in meetings all day, so my brain has been all over the place. If you could please just give me a quick little 30-second description, I could definitely answer whatever question you need me to answer.
Okay, so basically circular economy is this idea that we're going to create an economy where the benefits of that economy circulate within the community, circulate within Hawaii. An example of an economy that's not circular is the way we're so heavily dependent on tourism that people come here with a bunch of money and they spend it, but pretty much within a short amount of time, that money just gets sucked right back out, either by somebody that owns a hotel or Walmart or whatever.
I understand. Okay, now I totally get it. Okay, now it's coming back to me. Yeah, circular economy. I think first and foremost, it starts off with food sustainability, food security. You know, we should be looking at diversifying our economy in a lot of different ways. No, we can't lean on tourism anymore. Responsible tourism is something that is starting to happen. I think Uncle John D. Freeze and the initiative that they've taken in the last week or so are definitely on that right path. Now, tourism creates a lot of jobs for the men and women, a lot of blue collar workers in hotels. So I don't think we cannot get rid of tourism. That's never going to happen. But I think that it needs to be responsible tourism. I think we also need to depend on ag and ranching and farming. One thing to the ranching and more the farming component is looking at different with technology. You know, the old school way of bending over in a backbreaking farming work. You know, I think there's more of a transition now to do farming with technology and being totally, and that can help us be totally sustainable. And if we're going to invest money, if the legislature, for example, has a bunch of money they can invest, let's invest in the people here. Let's talk to the entrepreneurs of local businesses, and how can we help them? How can we help provide and subsidize them so they can help provide better wages for their workers? But I definitely am for that type of economy, and I think keeping the money in house, keeping the economy going in a circular motion, for lack of better words, is the right way to go. And I think we have to put our heads together, and we need to strategize a plan to achieve that goal. But I think it starts with having food sustainability, and it starts with good jobs and housing.
So that brings us to food security and agriculture. And that's definitely sounds like that's something that you feel is important. What ideas do you have for protecting local farmers and our environment from invasive species?
Oh boy, you know, as far as the invasive species component, I'm to be totally honest, I haven't really educated myself to the level I need to. I do have a lot of, I have some meetings set up with farmers and ranchers very, very shortly. I have spent a lot of time with them recently. But the things we've been talking about recently are more along the lines of implementing technology to help the farmers, how to help them get more land, possibly turning over state land to the Department of Ag land and allocating that to our ranchers and our farmers. So to answer your question, I need to educate myself more on the invasive species component of the farming and ranching. However, food sustainability and food security is something that we're shipping our cattle away because the ranchers can get more money from the mainland. Now, why are the local farmers' crops so expensive here? Because of the size. It's hard for them to compete with the mainland farmers who have tens of thousands of acres. So they're limited with the size of their land here. And everything's more expensive here, from the water to the feed to the land, everything. I think working with shipping companies, talking to Young Brothers, talking to Mads, and talking to Pasha, to help them possibly create some kind of a financial break for local farmers to ship their crops out, whatever the state doesn't need, so they can make money off it and keep their money here in their local economy, I think is great. And but yeah, I definitely think food security is something that needs to get improved on.
Okay. And now we could maybe start talking about climate change.
Mhm.
Are you one of those people who thinks climate change is for real, or do you think the jury is still out?
Oh, it's for real.
It's for
It's
real.
for,
Okay, just
look at
checking
those.
in, you never know.
Well,
And okay, if it's for real, then what are we going to do about it? There's,
you look at those. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. You finished. I'm so sorry.
it's okay. There's one school of thought that says, okay, there's going to be a certain amount of sea level rise, so we have to run down there and build seawalls and harden the coastline and try to protect ourselves from that. And then there's another school of thought that says, well, the sea's going to rise, so we should start right now planning an orderly retreat. Which gets a little complicated for us because we've got a lot of hotels right there, like right on the beaches. And, when it comes to that kind of thing, which school of thought do you align with?
Oh boy. No, you're right. Look at those homes on North Shore of Oahu. What's happening to them? They're falling in the ocean. There is erosion, and that's something that needs to be taken into account for future developing of homes or hotels. Now, I do agree a little bit with the retreat concept, but I don't know, how would you get those hotels out of there? How would you displace them? There's a lot of work. There's a lot of people who rely on those hotels for jobs, who rely on the hotels, to make a good live wages, to take care of their families. I do feel that it's real. The climate change is real. We need to look at different types of renewable energy. We need to look at solar. We need to look at potentially responsible geothermal and responsible biomass. We need to stop relying on bringing in fuel from other countries and other areas of the other world. But to answer your question, I agree with you. I do think that as far as when it comes to future endeavors, future projects, whether it's residential or hotels, we need to really take into account that sea level is rising and erosion is going to happen. Now, to transition back to something I was saying earlier, to retreat all those hotels back, I'm not sure how that happened. I need to educate myself more on those concepts. But I do understand that there's a major climate change and rising sea level, as well as trying to shift our thought process, our way of life to better, more efficient types of energy is something that needs to be done.
Following up on that, there's a Senate bill on the governor's desk right now. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's 2510.
Yes.
And it advocates for firm energy,
yes.
As opposed to wind and solar. In fact, it sets strict limits
Yes.
for future wind and solar development. Do you think that the governor should veto that bill? And if so, why or why not?
No, that's a tough bill. And I think that's something that I might be a disagreement with a lot of folks listening in. I totally understand, there's a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of issues with Honua. For me, looking at it strictly from the component of working people, the people that are going to lose their jobs, that's hard for me I'd have a hard time with the governor vetoing something that would negatively affect the working people. However, I do, I'm not a business person. Whatever this company did to put themselves into financial disarray, that's not my kuleana. As far as the CO2 emissions and those kind of things, I am worried about it, to be totally honest with you. And I kind of heard from people I've talked to, there are some bills that also were passed to monitor the CO2 emissions. Again, I haven't read the final bill, how it's finally written, but strictly from just looking at it from the component of fighting for the working class men and women, I would not want them to veto it, to be totally honest with you folks. However, I do think we need to shift the portfolio to solar, to wind. I also think that I have talked to some people in the geothermal realm. How can we possibly attack the geothermal component with also trying to be more environmentally responsible than who Honua was?
I understand the what you're saying about protecting workers and their jobs. But what about the implication to the ratepayer? Do you think it's okay for people to pay more for their energy?
No, the ratepayer is something that I don't agree with, honestly, to be totally honest with you. And I don't know a lot about it. And again, it's just learning. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the whole total concept of it before I can give a straight answer. You know, I kind of heard that the rate component of it may change. That honestly, the 33% for me personally, looking at it, it's high. You know, there are some alarming parts of that bill. I do understand where you guys are coming from. Absolutely. Looking at what I know of the bill, I am not in my heart sold on the whole thing, to be honest. You know.
Thank you. Christine?
Okay, so maybe let's talk about ocean health. I'm just imagining that you're someone who cares about that.
Yes.
So a couple questions about
Yeah.
that. You know, yeah, climate change is real and we're seeing an impact on coral reefs, and we're just starting to really understand what an important role they play in maintaining ocean health. So as an example, you know, scientists are telling us when it comes to the coral, there's a certain amount of time in the year when they're repopulating and they're doing what they need to do according to nature to make more coral and to have a healthier coral environment. So in order to not interrupt their natural processes, the idea is that we close the beaches and we say, sorry, nobody can go down to the beach for, you know, this amount of time. I think generally it's 2 weeks or less.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the sort of thing that you're in favor of? Would you support that?
Well, I think that kind of falls on the responsible tourism component as well, to overusage. You know, I would have a hard time possibly telling some people who were born and raised on the beach, you can't go there. But I think that also falls on the communication and transparency. Like, you know, we're not trying to say you can't go to the beach. We're saying, can you please just stay out of here for a week or two to let the coral regenerate itself? So I am definitely for looking into that. Definitely.
Okay, and related to that, there's a relationship between reef fish that get harvested for the aquarium trade and the coral. There's a very strong relationship between those fish, and we want them to be healthy as well. So there's a pretty strong contingent that says we should just ban aquarium fishing. I wonder how you feel about that.
You know, honestly, to be totally honest with you, this is the first I'm hearing about it. You know, I think the reef is important. I think our environment is extremely important. Are aquariums important? Yeah, they are. But I think protecting our environment, protecting our āina, caring, again, it goes back to, you know, the way my grandparents cared about our āina, you know, and trying to align myself with those views and that manao. So I'm not going to say we ban aquarium fish altogether across the board, but I am for putting definite harsh restrictions that if there are situations where there are fish or other kind of sea life that is helping coral grow or helping our environment, they need to be off limits, and we need to really put restrictions on that.
Even if it means people might potentially lose their jobs. You
know, that's I gotta learn more about it. Honestly, I'd have to learn more. This is the first time. To be totally honest with you, this is the first time hearing about it. I think this is something I need to educate myself more on. And I think part of, you know, running for office is being transparent and just saying when I need to learn more, having the courage and strength to possibly make hard. You're going to have the courage and strength to make hard decisions, but you got to take all the factors in. You got to take if there are a job at stake, that definitely would weigh on my decision making process.
Which is more important to you in terms of when you're looking at the coral reefs and the health of the oceans, and there potentially an industry might be affected and you might become a House rep and they might lobby very heavily on the basis that some people might lose their jobs if you advocate strongly for the reefs. How would you react to that?
To be totally honest with you, at this point in time, losing jobs would be hard. You know, it's my whole thing is fighting for the working class people of our community. I would have a hard time making it. I probably would not be able to make a decision that would negatively affect someone's ability to take care of their families. And now that doesn't go without being said that the environment is extremely important. And how do we get everybody in a room and we strategize a plan to move forward and help both sides of this situation achieve their goals?
Thank you. Christine?
So sticking with the ocean health, nearshore waters, it's a huge issue on our island, the cesspools and the need to convert. We've had a number of attempts made to create private-public partnerships as a solution. I wonder how you feel about that.
Okay, can you give me a little more background on that, please?
Okay, so as an example, this past legislative session and the one before it, there have been bills introduced that would allow the Department of Environmental Management on our island to contract with private companies to build and operate to some extent new wastewater treatment facilities. And the unions have come out very, very strongly against that. It seems that they're could be okay with having a private entity build it, but when it comes to operating the wastewater treatment plants, absolutely not. And they're so concerned about that they just do what they can to prevent any kind of legislation like that would give the director of the Department of Environmental Management the ability to do that. They just come and shut that all down. Not really in the mood to negotiate, even though it's been made clear that the existing union members don't have the certifications that they need to operate these new state-of-the-art wastewater treatment facilities. So it's been a difficult issue, and it certainly is one that I think someone like you would care about.
Yeah, I care about it deeply. This is a hard decision to make. It's a hard situation to be in because this facility needs to get built. But from the labor union perspective, they're looking at it and saying that it's not producing jobs because the union workers don't have the correct training or certifications for it. First question would be, how do you get that training? How do you achieve that training and achieve those certifications? There's got to be compromise on both sides. You have to compromise. Part of being a good leader is, number one, being a good listener. And I think you got to listen to both sides and have to achieve the ability to compromise. I think the plant is needed. I think it's a necessity, but I also feel you have to protect union jobs. However, it can't be all one way. There has to be a compromise. And I think, again, goes back to getting people in a room. And, there's a lot of smart people involved in the situation. And how do we strategize a plan to suffice both sides?
You're muted, Christine.
Your very direct questions are giving us the opportunity to ask your very direct answers are giving us the opportunity to ask a lot of questions. So here we go. How about, would you be in support of legislation that would reduce the use of single-use plastics? Because we see them ending up in the marine environment. We see microplastics being found in sea creatures in the Marianas Trench. Plastic pollution is a very serious problem. And do you see yourself supporting legislation that would reduce its use?
Yeah, I think those kind of things that will help the environment with the limited use of plastics. Yeah, I would be for, yes.
Okay. How about now if we talk about social problems? We see a lot of issues arising from drug addiction. Do you have any ideas about how the state could do a better job of helping people who have fallen into that situation in their lives and have health problems?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my principles that I'm standing on: housing, healthcare, education, and jobs. I think a lot of times those drug use is a byproduct of that. Now, a lot of times too, you have mental health issues that can lead to it. You've had trauma in a family that can lead to it as well. The state can always do more. We can always do more to help our people who are who have drug issues. A lot of times, drug use is a disease for them. They need help. They need They don't need people putting them down. They don't need people just pushing them on the side. You know, you got to get into the communities and figure out what's causing it, and how do you help them? How do you continue to provide services for them? How do you continue to advocate for legislation to help them? You know, to funnel money for better programs, better, you know, transitional shelters. The housing, I think we need 68,000 homes across the state or something. You know, I think that's getting the housing is a major step in achieving that goal too.
Mental health and suicide have become huge issues in Hawaii. It just seems like it's gotten worse over the last couple of years. Would you advocate for the state government setting aside more funding for programs for mental health?
Absolutely. Sorry to cut you off there. I apologize. Lost a coworker a few weeks ago due to that. And, you know, you ask yourself what you possibly could have done more. You ask yourself, did you see any signs? You ask yourself 1,000 questions. You know, you can't put blame on anybody. You can't put blame on any issues, because you don't really know what brother's going through. You don't know what, you know, the shoes that he's walking in. Yeah, I think it's big. I think a lot of it, I'm not going to blame everything on a lack of housing and jobs and the cost of living and just the overall turbulence that people have in their lives due to those issues. But, you know, when you lose somebody that you work with, and when you see these issues, especially a lot of them are with a lot of the younger kids, you know, high school students, teenage students, and you try to think back to when you're that age, like, bro, what do you have to worry about, man? You know, you have to pay rent and mortgage, nothing. Go to school, go surfing, play football, play basketball. And that's the scary part. You know, you look at it from the outside looking in, you think there's no problems. That's the scary part about it. So yeah, definitely, you know, it's something that hit me hard. And having two young daughters, 11 and 8, you know, there's a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm getting stuck in my words here, because it hits home. And I think about my girls, you know, I think about my girls as they progress and they get older, and the issues they're going to have, and what can I do to be a better father?
Right. Christine?
So there's a contingent of people who are also running for state house seats, and they're talking a lot about changing things if they get elected, in terms of the committee structures, the way committee chairs are assigned those responsibilities, the way leadership organizes itself. And a lot of this comes from, you know, if you talk to certain legislators, they feel, especially in the House, if they don't have a committee assignment, if they're not part of leadership, then they really don't have any power. So I wonder if you would be the kind of person that, if you did get sent to the legislature, to the state house, would you align with people who are looking to reform the way the committees get set up? Do you see yourself as that kind of a person? Have you given any thought to this? Or do you feel like the protocols that are in place should be left as is?
Protocols can always be changed as systems change, as we grow, as we gather more information. To answer your question, honestly, I haven't given it much thought. I haven't really listened to a lot of other people who are running for the same office as I am have said. I don't feel I'm running against any of those guys. I'm not running against them. I'm not running to beat them. I'm running for my community. You know, I'm running for those two little girls who call me daddy. You know, I'm running for our keiki. I'm running for the people in my district, for the working class men and women, to try to find ways to keep our keiki here on the āina. That's why I'm running. That's why. I haven't had the time to really dissect what other people are saying. Win or lose this election, I will stay involved. Whoever wins this election and wins this seat, I'll be the first guy to call them, high five them, congratulate them, and say, bro, how do we work together to move forward? Like I said earlier, I'm not a politician. I'm just a labor guy, ex-athlete who's trying to help our community. That's why I'm jumping into this arena. I'm gonna do what my actions will be dictated first and foremost from my character that was instilled in me by my parents, first and foremost. Secondly, is what my constituents want in my district, to advocate for them. What do they want? Get in there and ask them questions. Don't think what they might want. Get in there and get in the town hall meetings. Go to the Hawaiian Homes meetings. Go to the Waikoloa board meetings. Go down to the Hawaii and talk to everybody down there. Those things are going to dictate my actions. So to answer your question, power. What is power? Power is a loosely used term. I'm sorry. Hold on. Power is a loosely used term that can be misused at times. I feel reach, impact, the ability to help people is a terminology I would use. And I want to do everything I can in any capacity I can to help the people and advocate for the people in my district, and have the strength and courage to stand up for them, to listen to all sides. Great leaders are great listeners. Great leaders are great learners. A key component of learning is listening. A lot of it is just being quiet and listening to what people have to say, and taking that mana'o and strategizing a plan to help your community.
If you make it to the State House, one thing that you're going to have to deal with is the influence of some very strong and powerful lobbyists. And I know you just said that your constituents would be the most important thing. How would you deal with a lobbyist that's wielding power and influence if they come to your office and start advocating positions that might go against your constituents?
Well, if it goes against my character and values, that's out, bro. It's not even a question. Yeah. That's not even a question. And it goes back to me saying I'm not a politician. I've been a labor union leader for 10 years. I've been involved in this union, the LW, for 18 years. That stuff doesn't. I'm not saying I know it all, because I don't. I'll be the first person to sit here in front of you folks and say I have a lot to learn, but I am not going to be influenced by anybody, because my character and my integrity is what I hold near and dear to my heart. Character and integrity are one of the few things in life you have control over. Your inner strength, the ability to stand up and fight for people who don't have a voice, who can't fight for themselves. Those are the things. Those are the reasons that I'm running for this office. And not saying I'm the toughest guy in the world, but I don't care. I'm sorry, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Okay. Bro, my character, number one, is my character, my values, and my integrity. Number two is my constituents. Those all the character, my inner character and values line up with my constituents, and the people. If I do something, if I sell myself, let's just be honest here, right? If I do something and sell out, and I gotta go look at the kupuna in Foodland, that feeling in my heart I'm gonna have, that can never be taken. You never be able to replace that. Once your integrity and character are compromised, you're done. It's over. And that's something I heard and hold near and dear to my heart.
Thank you. Christine, one last question to close up.
Do you like to read? Because here's the deal. If you get elected, there's going to be some over 2,000 bills that are going to come through your office.
Oh, man. When I graduated college, I was like, man, I was thinking to myself, I'm probably never going to read for a while. I like reading, honestly, now. Now that I'm older, and I'm more mature at 44 years old than I was at 22 years old when I graduated. I like reading. I think reading keeps you sharp. It keeps your mind focused. And I might have to read things twice to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, definitely gonna do my due diligence. That's part of this office. That's part of character. It's part of your integrity. You have to pay attention to the details of whatever your assignment is. And my assignment is to help my community.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Makai, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to sit and talk story with us. And thank you, Christine, for conducting the interview. It's been a real pleasure. At HULI PAC, we're building something that the political establishment has never seen, a slate of Pono leaders. Your donation can help HULI the system. For more information or to make a donation, please visit our website, hulihigh.com, HULIHI.com. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. You guys have a good night. Thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate the time. And you guys have a great weekend. Thank you.